challenges for chemicals and energy. We talked about the challenges of the variety of technology pathways that are in development, and there's so many directions that may emerge as the stuff that becomes into mass production. We talked about a lot of the processing gap on the feedstock side in between the agricultural side to the plant gate and the sort of crush facility infrastructure, gathering, processing facility infrastructure. We discussed high energy costs being a significant challenge for many facilities. I think we've heard that through several presentations today. Something we picked on, actually I picked on a bit, is there's a bit of expectations for perfection from the environmental lobbyists who want 100% greenhouse gas reduction, 100, this perfect process that doesn't quite exist yet, and maybe to support processes that are incrementally better to help them make money doing what they're doing now, so that they'll push on to the processes of the second and third generation, or fourth, whatever generation we're on now. Regulations and approval time, I think we'll hear government policy a lot, and public trust and understanding what's going on, especially as it gets into more and more chemical production. So gaps, I believe the argument here on competitive advantage is, I think the drop-in argument, if I understand correctly, of replacing the petrochemical analog to whatever's being produced. Expanding the skills base, attracting more and more talent to the industry, and what's actually commercially ready, and commercially ready in terms of that technology readiness level 9 or 9 to 10 mature technologies that was discussed earlier. So current trends, the ramifications of Paris COP21, the expansion of biotechnology from fuels to chemicals to materials to specialty materials to biopharmacy, the proliferation of, again, ways to go. And a trend that's certainly important to this group is the cluster model, as Sarni has excellent evidence of, where we're segmenting specific pieces of the biorefinery value chain and having people get together and work in clustered fashion versus one company trying to take the entire technology pathway on. Opportunities, again, policy development, and it's written here, clean tech and greenhouse gas reduction, and maybe I'll lean on the team to elaborate what exactly was meant there.
So what are your top three?
We didn't get quite that far, and I certainly don't feel
How are the patents go about this?
I'm expecting this going to be something along the lines of getting first commercial facilities built, regulatory approvals, and I guess the processing gap. If you don't have feedstock, you can't get very far.
All right. Wow.
Okay, so we focused on materials and applications. In terms of challenges, we came up with sustainable composites as a challenge to develop. Perhaps this goes with bioplastics as well. Bioplastics and composites could be seen as one category. Developing the development pipeline, right? We have to have several products along the way and several stages in their development. Economic source of engineered fiber in Canada. Characterization of bioplastics. Quality requirements, that's important, again, all along the supply chain. Lack of processing facilities. Lack of market pool. Renewable materials for oil and gas and water applications. Recycling and infrastructure facilities, or lack of. Oilseed biomaterial development. Development of lignin applications. Availability of dedicated crushers, and lack of government policy. So this is what we came up with respect to challenges. With respect to gaps, I guess we need to go up here. Yeah. We need to come up with the vocabulary for the bio space, or a consistent vocabulary among different players. Treatment technologies for fibers and corresponding processing capabilities. Process integration is always very important, especially when you are doing something next to an existing facility. Market analysis, and it's important to do this upfront. Integrated supply chain, and again, we talked about the quality requirements before, so there's some overlap there. And awareness of emerging biotechnologies and benefits, or I should say common awareness between all players, from universities to industry to engineering companies and this whole thing. We didn't have much time to talk about trends, but we did prioritize all this by having a vote around the table. And I guess the 3 or 4 winners are, with 8 votes, we have lack of processing facilities. With 7 votes, we have lack of government policy. And with 6 votes, we have lack of market pull. Thank you.
Wow.
Hello, everybody. My name is Arvind, if you haven't met me yet. So our groups, we started with a first question that kind of guided what our major challenge was, and that was, what is the sustainable volume of residue removal? And from there, we talked about specifically what are the impacts of managing soil fertility and erosion, given what the amount of, for example, stover you remove. This led to a discussion about how there was a communication challenge, because we discussed how there are standards and a body of knowledge that's available, but it's not necessarily being communicated properly. Then that further extended to talking about the need to synergize efforts across the country. And we talked a bit about blind spots in the system, particularly talking about how there's a lot of variability across the nation. In one region, you'll have variation in moisture and ash content as opposed to another. We then talked a bit about opportunities, because we didn't want to just be all negative for the whole time. So we talked about the possibility of new tools and technology for transportation. One example was a biomass slurry pipeline. And we also talked about hosting a session to really develop or log community practices. And also we spoke more about how mobilizing the body of knowledge between industry and academia was an opportunity, as it sort of related to a challenge we had. And we also talked about how climate change is also important in this area as a whole. And so we kind of amalgamated these challenges and opportunities to come up with our priorities. So and not in any particular order of importance, but we spoke about sustainability factors, communication challenges, specifically cross-country coordination of communications efforts, synergy of efforts, and sharing of knowledge. We talked about supply chain modeling tools, and also new tools and technology for transportation.
21 votes. We called them dollars of investment. So if you see the category that says dollars invested, don't be thrown off. That's your votes. The second was lack of government policy, and boy, I would just so enjoy a conversation about that, which received 19 votes. Oilseed biomaterial development received a whopping 15 votes, so that's an interesting discussion that needs to be had. A lack of market pull received 12 votes. I would say that that's intimately tied to the lack of government policy, but that's an opinion. A processing gap or growth fund concept received 11 votes. Supply chain modeling tools received 9 votes, and commercial ready technologies received 9 votes. So these are all really big discussion items, and one of the things that we didn't really have much time to talk about, but which came out from the Ag Biomass Supply and Logistics group, was the concept of a shared community of practice portal that would allow us to engage the people in this room and the much broader community in discussions around the questions that you were answering and then voted on, the ideas of what are the challenges, the gaps, the trends, and the opportunities. And I think we may explore that idea and invite that discussion to happen, even if it's just for a short period of time, so that we can flesh these out a little bit more. And I know for sure that these will be topics that we'll be discussing within the Bioindustrial Innovation Canada. So I apologize for interrupting your lunch, but I did want to get this back out to you just as quickly as we could so that you could take a look at it. It might influence your lunchtime discussion. I would invite everyone to make sure that they get a coffee and some dessert. And then the bad news is that we actually have to be out of this room by 12:30. There is another group that's using it this afternoon. Between 12:30 and 12:45, we should never give them another 15 minutes.
I know. Well,
Anyway,
pretty good margin.
if you don't mind just keeping a little bit of an eye on the time, that would be great. But thanks again, and special thanks to Sandy, who has been leading this effort, to Murray, who, working very closely with James, has delivered a really interesting workshop for all of us. So let's take this opportunity to thank them one more time.